Hello my dear students and welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to discuss third episode of human nutrition. This is the third episode. Already 2 episodes are on their way and you people might be benefiting from those episodes, and this is the third segment of the lecture human nutrition. This topic actually covers the syllabus of IGCSE and GCE O levels of Cambridge University Board. And this topic or this lecture is also helpful for the students who are likely to take their exams either through Edexcel, IGCSE or GCSE, or AQA or OCR GCSE exams. So in this third episode of human nutrition, we are going to discuss about human digestive system. In this segment, we will discuss about certain terminologies being used in the digestive system. We will discuss about the teeth, structure of the tooth, and how the teeth are involved in the mechanical digestion, as well as we will be discussing about chemical digestion that occurs in mouth and stomach. So human have got a holozoic mode of nutrition, means they do have a tube-like digestive system with 2 openings. One opening, that is mouth, and through this opening food enters the digestive system. Then it is processed gradually from different components of this tube, and at the end of the tube there is a second opening, is known as anus, and through this anus undigested food residues are expelled in the form of feces. Certain terminologies that are likely to be discussed today that include ingestion. Ingestion means intake of food into the digestive system, that mainly occurs at mouth. Then comes digestion. Digestion involves the breakdown of food, and this breakdown of food is actually involving 2 types of digestion. One is known as physical digestion or what we call mechanical digestion. In case of physical or mechanical digestion, larger food pieces are broken down into smaller food pieces. And remember one thing, no enzyme or no chemical activity is involved here. And it is a simple process where larger food pieces are broken down into smaller food pieces and molecular status of the food remains unaffected. But it helps in increasing the surface area of the food, and it also helps the enzymes to work more efficiently and fastly to digest the food. Then comes chemical digestion. In case of chemical digestion, enzymes are involved, and larger, complex and mostly insoluble food molecules are broken down into smaller, soluble and simpler molecules that could be taken up by the cells and utilized as per their need. So in that case, enzymes are involved, and complex molecular status of the food is converted into simplest molecular status of the food. So this process is actually occurring in mouth, in stomach, and in small intestine of the human digestive system. Then comes absorption and assimilation. Absorption means digested substances are taken up from the small intestine into the bloodstream, and they are circulated throughout the body, where body cells take up these components, these digested molecules, and utilize them as per their need. Like glucose is used for respiration, amino acids are used for making different types of required proteins. And assimilation is actually utilization of the food or digested food into the cells. Then comes egestion, and egestion is the removal of undigested food residues through anus, that is a second opening, and this egestion actually helps getting rid of the undigested residue, so that digestive system is ready for another food intake. So let's continue with our discussion regarding different components of the digestive system. Digestive system comprises of the following components: mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. Some of the authors have included rectum and anus as the component of the large intestine. So it is not a big deal at all. These are the connected organs of the digestive system. They are connected in a series, and all these organs take up food and take up food residues turn by turn and process it as they are specialized for. But there are two other organs, and these organs are liver and pancreas. These are the organs that are connected with the small intestine. These organs do not directly take up food and process it. Rather, they produce and release secretions into small intestine, and these secretions are either helping the food digestion process to complete and effectively take place, or these secretions are actually containing enzymes that are directly involved in the process of digestion. So we can call them as supporting digestive organs, or organs that are supporting the process of digestion. Let's start with the mouth. What happens in the mouth? What processes are occurring in the mouth? Mouth is the first organ of the digestive system, and the two main processes that occur in the mouth are ingestion and digestion. Ingestion means the food is taken into the digestive system through mouth, and digestion means food is broken down and partially processed within the mouth. So there is two types of digestion that is occurring in the mouth. One is known as the chemical digestion and the other is mechanical digestion. First of all, we will discuss about mechanical digestion, also known as physical digestion, where teeth with the help of tongue and cheeks break down larger food pieces into smaller granule-like chunks, and this is increasing the surface area of the food so that enzymes are going to work more efficiently on the partially broken down food particles. So larger food pieces, larger food particles are broken down into smaller food pieces so that enzyme activity becomes very effective. So chemical digestion involves saliva. Saliva is a liquid that is produced by the salivary glands in the mouth, and this saliva contains mucus that liquefies the food, and this saliva also contains an enzyme. This enzyme is known as salivary amylase. This salivary amylase digests starch that is present in the food, and the starch is digested into simple sugars that is also known as maltose. Remember one thing, in mouth only starch digestion does take place. No protein and no fat digestion is taking place in the mouth. Why? Because in the mouth only salivary amylase is produced. No enzyme responsible for fat or protein digestion is produced. So means there is no enzyme that could digest fats or proteins in the mouth. So only starch digestion does take place. Remember one thing, the pH of the saliva is 7, that is the neutral pH, and salivary amylase is capable of working effectively in the pH range, that is 6.5 to 7.5. But if pH increases above 7.5 or if pH decreases below 6.5, so salivary amylase gets denatured and it no longer digests starch. Within mouth, by the activity of teeth, larger food pieces are converted into smaller food pieces, and then later salivary amylase digests starch into simple sugars. But remember, not all the starch is digested here, only a little portion of starch is digested here because food stays in the mouth for a little time. Now, that partially processed food is converted into pellet-like structures, and these pellet-like structures are known as bolus. A singular, it is known as bolus, and this bolus is swallowed into the esophagus. Before we proceed further with the esophagus, what happens with the food when it travels through esophagus towards stomach, we must discuss about teeth. Teeth, the structures, the bony structures that are responsible for mechanical digestion in the mouth, we must know about these teeth. There are 4 different types of teeth found in the human mouth, and these teeth include incisors that are meant for cutting and biting, canines that are meant for cutting and tearing, premolars and molars that are responsible for grinding, for chewing food into smaller granule-like structures, granule-like pieces. So these 4 different types of teeth are arranged in 2 jaws, one the upper jaw and the other lower jaw, and there is a sequence of these teeth in the human mouth. Remember one thing, we are discussing about a human mouth and we are discussing about the teeth found in the human mouth. But considering the different other animals, herbivores means the animals that are feeding more on plants or plant products. So these animals have got very much prominent incisors in the large number, and canines are either absent or if present they are smaller in size. But premolars and molars would be large in number. Whereas the animals who are likely to feed on flesh, feed on the muscles of other animals like carnivores like cats, dogs, alligators, etc. Lion as well. So they have got very less number of incisors, very less number of premolars. A few molars are found, but canines are very much prominent because they have to tear the flesh of the animal, so canines are very much prominent. So number of the teeth and the type of the teeth and their development within the mouth depends on the eating habits, genuine eating habits of the animals that teeth are found in. So these teeth are well inserted in the jaws. The jaw bones, the U-shaped jaw bones, these teeth are well inserted in the jaw bones, in the tooth sockets, and they are well protected and covered around by the gums. Now we will consider the structure of a tooth. A tooth is consisting of 2 parts. One is known as the root. With the help of this root, this tooth is well inserted in the tooth jaw and is well covered, well protected and well supported by the gums around. And the crown, that is the exposed part of the tooth, and that what we see, that the white part of the tooth that we see, that is known as the crown. Now the crown contains the topmost layer, that is known as the enamel. Middle bony part is known as dentine, that gives it hardness. And the inner is known as pulp, that is the fleshy part, that contains the nerve endings, and that also contains certain sensitive receptors. And these are the nerve endings. This is the pulp when it is exposed to the different chemicals in the food, so that imparts sensitivity. And these nerves are entering the tooth through the roots, and then they are becoming the part of the nervous system. So this is the general structure of a tooth. In humans, generally in the life cycle of the human or in the whole life of the human, 2 sets of teeth are found. In the early age, by the age of 6, the set of teeth found in the human mouth, that is known as the milk teeth, that are the temporary teeth, and that fall off and they are replaced at the age of 6 or above with the permanent teeth, and permanent teeth last throughout the life. Due to some other reasons like decay or some other reasons, they could be falling off, but they are less likely to be replaced by the new teeth. Now, there is a concept of tooth decay. This is not exactly required in general for the Cambridge students, but actually it must be the common understanding and common learning of all the students that they should know about tooth decay and they should know how to prevent tooth decay. So it's the general information that should be considered by each and every student. When we eat some food that is rich in sugars, or that is rich in starch, rich in carbohydrates, so bacteria in our mouth that are likely to metabolize the pieces of the food or the molecules of the food that remain trapped within the gums, between the teeth, or somewhere in the mouth. So these trapped particles are metabolized by the bacteria living in our mouth, and they produce organic acids. These organic acids, first of all, they destroy the enamel, then they destroy the dentine, and the pulp is exposed. And when the food particles they approach the pulp, so sensitivity in the form of pain does reflect. And then while eating something, drinking something, we may feel pain because the pulp is exposed and food molecules are interacting the pulp. In order to avoid such condition, what we need to do? We need to brush our teeth regularly with the fluoride toothpaste, because fluoride strengthens the enamel. We must avoid eating sugar-rich food, or if we do eat, we must rinse our mouth properly with plenty of water. We must use antiseptic mouthwash that will reduce the population of bacteria in our mouth. And we must visit the dentist once or twice per annum. So if there is any drawback or any damage that has started occurring to the teeth, so the dentist will observe it and would counter it immediately before the damage occurs very severe. So that was about the structure of the tooth and how the teeth are involved in mechanical digestion. Now we come across with esophagus. The food bolus that was made within the mouth is swallowed into the esophagus. Esophagus is the muscular tube, and this muscular tube is lying at the floor of the mouth cavity, that is also known as the buccal cavity. This esophagus is actually responsible for transporting food, transporting bolus from mouth to the stomach. So in that case, the muscles, they produce a wave of contraction in the esophagus wall, that is known as peristalsis. And how does it happen? That when the food enters the esophagus, the muscular wall that contains two types of muscles, longitudinal muscles and the circular muscles. So these muscles constrict at the back of the bolus and dilate in front of the bolus. And they produce a wave of constriction that starts its journey at the start of the esophagus and continues, this constriction wave continues till the bolus reaches to the stomach. So this constriction wave that pushes the bolus in the forward direction from the mouth towards the stomach, this is known as peristalsis, or it is known as peristaltic movement. Remember one thing, esophagus does not produce any enzyme that could digest food components. Means food contains starch, proteins and fats. So there is no enzyme produced in the esophagus that could digest these food components. But a little starch digestion continues to occur in the esophagus. Why? Because the bolus that was formed in the mouth, it also contains saliva that is mixed in the bolus. And within that saliva, there is salivary amylase. So that salivary amylase keeps on digesting starch throughout the route when the food is traveling towards the stomach. At the junction where esophagus joins the stomach, there is a ring of muscles, or you can say there is a valve, and this valve is made up of ring of muscles, and this is known as cardiac sphincter. This valve allows the food to enter from esophagus to the stomach, and this ring opens when the peristaltic wave reaches to the cardiac sphincter, and it allows the bolus to fall into the stomach, and then later it again closes. Now this cardiac sphincter, it is named because this particular valve area is close to the heart, so that's why this is known as the cardiac sphincter. Now the food bolus has reached the stomach cavity. Stomach is a muscular organ, and this stomach is also a tube-like organ where the partial food digestion does take place, but here protein digestion is likely to occur. In the stomach, it consists of various tissues. For example, stomach contains epithelial tissue. Outer epithelial tissue are known as outer epithelium, that makes the outer boundary, and the inner epithelium makes the inner boundary that is facing the cavity of the stomach. Then this stomach contains muscles, and these muscles are likely to produce peristaltic movements that will push the food forward into the small intestine when it is required. And these muscles can also produce blending movements, or what we call churning movements. And these churning movements are actually responsible for blending the food contents appropriately, precisely with the gastric juice in the stomach. Then we have got glands within the stomach wall. Glands are specialized cells found in the wall of the stomach. And these glands are likely to produce a secretion, and this secretion is known as gastric juice. This gastric juice contains a number of components. For example, the first primary component of the gastric juice is mucus. Mucus, actually, it liquefies the food further when it gets mixed up with the bolus, and at the same time this mucus also makes a protective coating over the inner epithelium in order to prevent it from the acids, from the effect of acids, and from the effect of protein digesting enzymes. Then we have HCl, hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is produced by the gastric glands with a strong pH of 2, and this hydrochloric acid performs a number of jobs. Number 1, it kills all the germs that enter the digestive system along with food or drink. Second, this hydrochloric acid helps maintain acidic pH within the stomach. That will help in activating enzymes, and that will also help in the enzyme activity efficiently. This hydrochloric acid also tenderizes the food proteins, means larger food polypeptides, or you can say larger food proteins. They are broken down into smaller polypeptides so that enzyme activity becomes faster and efficient. And the fourth job of this hydrochloric acid is that it is also responsible for activating the enzymes. I repeat, in stomach only protein digestion occurs. No carbohydrate, no starch, no fat digestion, because gastric glands only produce protein digesting enzymes. They can also be taken as proteases. They can also be known as proteases. So these proteases are of two types. One is known as pepsin, that is the active form, and inactive form is pepsinogen. This pepsinogen, once it is produced and it enters the stomach cavity where it interacts with hydrochloric acid, it gets activated and it transforms from pepsinogen into pepsin. And this pepsin is likely to break down larger protein molecules into smaller polypeptides or smaller peptones. Whereas another enzyme that is known as prorenin, that this prorenin is an inactive form of the enzyme. When it enters the stomach cavity, it interacts with the hydrochloric acid, it becomes activated as renin, and it is responsible for digesting milk proteins and for curdling of the milk. So only these two enzymes that are processing proteins from larger molecular status to smaller polypeptide status, this is occurring only, and this is not the complete protein digestion. It is incomplete protein digestion. Whereas no enzyme is produced that could digest starch or fats. And even the 𝐓𝑡 amylase that was already present in the bolus along with saliva, so that 𝐓𝑡 amylase also gets denatured when it reaches the stomach cavity and it encounters with the hydrochloric acid. So it is denatured. So starch digestion that had started in the mouth, that continued in the esophagus, would stop in the stomach. Now in the stomach, mechanical digestion is partially done by the activity of muscles, because they do produce churning movements, and this churning movement can be taken as a partial mechanical or physical digestion. And this is further supported by enzymes in the gastric glands that actually carry on chemical digestion, but only on the proteins. So the partially processed food in the stomach is now known as chyme, and this chyme is almost liquid. Even though you have taken up the solid food, now that solid food has been turned into a semi-liquid chyme, and with each peristaltic wave, this semi-liquid chyme with a little portion of the semi-liquid chyme is pushed into small intestine with each peristaltic wave. I repeat, where each peristaltic wave results, a little portion of chyme is introduced into the small intestine. At the junction of stomach and small intestine, there is present another valve, and this valve is also made up of ring of muscles, and this is known as pyloric sphincter. So the peristaltic wave that started its journey at the start of esophagus, this ended up at the cardiac sphincter, but the peristaltic wave that started its journey from the start of the stomach, when it reaches to the small intestine end, it makes the pyloric sphincter to open, and a little chyme is pushed into the small intestine where it is further processed. So this was the third episode of the human nutrition, and in this episode we discussed about mouth, different terminologies that are used in digestive system or in the unit of digestion, like we discussed about ingestion, digestion and its types, absorption, assimilation and egestion. And we also discussed how the mouth and stomach are involved in chemical and mechanical digestion of the food. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the fourth episode of this unit in the upcoming lecture.